All right. So you haven't worked with any directors, you said, right?
No.
Everything's okay. All right. And then the book that you did do, it was multicast, but you weren't in studio with the other reader, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that the only multicast that you've done so far?
No, I've done two.
Two. Okay.
Actually, no, three.
Three
multicast.
Okay, so let me ask you this. With the multicast, for those who don't know what multicast means, it just means that there's another narrator that's casted on the same title. So in some instances, they go into the studio on their own time and record their parts. Sometimes both are in the studio at the same time. Sometimes you're reading from the perspective of every character, and that other person is also reading from the perspective of every character. Which was your experience? I know you weren't in studio with the person, but the book itself, were you reading for all of the characters in the book and so was the other reader, or were you just specifically reading from the perspective of just one character and that person was also reading from just one character?
No, for all three of those books, I was reading from the perspective of every character.
Okay.
And that was interesting. Very interesting to have to switch, those voices real time and my thinking real time as I'm reading. And sometimes I'd have to stop and say, "Oh wait, who was that talking? Was it the male or the female or the kid or the grandmother?" Right. And I have to go back and hit that part again. But yeah, it was always all of the characters' perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've experienced that as well, and it can get tricky because you don't really know how the other person is approaching the characters. So you are also reading for those same characters that other person is reading for. So it's kind of hard. You have to kind of come up with your own way of doing it. But then, like you said, you got to be able to switch back and forth. Chapter 1 may have 3 people in it, and then they pop up again in chapter 10. And now you got to be like, oh, wait, she's back. And you got to think about how you approached it and have them go back and maybe play back that character. And they're really good sometimes with tagging and making notes as to where certain characters are, so that if you do forget how you delivered a certain character, they can be like, oh, you need to know how Kim spoke. Let me go back and find Kim for you. And they'll play it back for you so that you can approach the same way. But my first multicast was that way. And it was a little nerve-wracking. And it was a long book. And I was reading for 4 characters plus a narrator perspective. So, and then all the little characters in between, kids and things like that. So it's definitely an interesting experience. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one thing they told me when I came, the engineers told me when I came in, is like the person who starts it sets the tone. The person who records first sets the tone for the book. So I was very fortunate. I got to record first for all 3 of those, and kind of not have to really think too much about the tone that the other person was bringing, because I was starting it, but I know the other way around is coming.
Yeah, possibly, maybe. That you never know what you'll experience coming, because I didn't know, like I knew what multicast was going into it, but I had no idea. I thought that I literally was just going to be reading for the characters that they had highlighted on the manuscript that they sent me. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be these 3 people and that's it. But no, I had to be, those were just the main characters that I was being, but I also had to be everybody else in the book too. So that was interesting. So when we talk about characters, let's talk about character breakdown. What are your best practices behind that, and what do you find challenging when it comes to character breakdown?
I think the thing that's challenging for me is that I haven't been educated in this area, in creating characters or working on accents and things. I'm fortunate because I've had such a long singing career. I can, hear certain tones and mimic certain things because I'm used to using my ears that way. So some accents I can kind of pick up and mimic. Like the last book I did, it had there was a Swedish accent, there was a German accent, there was British accents. Um, I feel like I'm leaving something out, but it was all these different accents that kind of came in. They weren't throughout the entire book, so that was great. They were just kind of coming in sections. So that was very helpful for me. So what I did, I've always loved the British accent. Um, but I started watching, and I watch these things anyway, so I'm giving myself away. But there's this the Great British Baking Show.
Oh, I love that show.
I love it. Okay.
Bridgerton helps too. You should watch Bridgerton because that really
Oh
gets
yeah,
me.
that too. That too. I love that too. I've seen it all. And so what I noticed is they have all these different British accents
Mhm.
from different, I guess, regions. And so when I'm watching the show, I started listening a little more keenly to the different accents.
Yeah.
And so I was able to use them because it was several British characters. It probably, I think it was 10. And they kept kind of speaking to each other and coming back and forth and jumping in and out. And so I was able to kind of switch through these different versions of this British accent.
Mhm.
I think it came out great. I don't know till I hear the book.
Yeah.
But for that, like I use that to kind of break down the characters. I also and this is another reason I'm so grateful for my career in music. Because of that, I have made relationships with people in different countries. So I
Mhm.
reached out to my friends in the UK and I said, "Hey, check out this British accent I'm doing." And I would send them voice memos. Tell me what you think. How would you say this? And same thing for some Swedish friends. I had some Swiss friends that speak German. I said, "Hey, how do you say this word? How would you say this?" And they would send me voice recordings. And
Nice.
same thing for another book that I did that had a lot of African names in it from Ghana and Nigeria. So I called my friends from Ghana and I said, "Hey, I have these names. This is how I think I say them, but I want to make sure I'm honoring, these people's names and I'm saying them correctly." And so they send me voice memos. This is how you pronounce this place or this person. And same thing with the Nigerian names. And then some of the people, because this was a nonfiction book and it was a contribution by a bunch of different people for this book, some of them I found them on Instagram.
Mm.
And I sent them direct messages. I said, "Hey, I'm narrating a book that you're a part of, and I just want to make sure I have your name right. Would you mind sending me a voice
Awesome.
memo, you know, like how to
Wow.
pronounce?" And so they were so happy, and that I respected them enough to find out the correct pronunciation of their name. And so they would happily send me the voice memos, and they would laugh in it because sometimes they would say it too fast. I'm like, "Can you slow it down for me, please?" you know, and because I know, because of my own name, what it's like to have my name mispronounced
Mhm.
throughout my life, and I know how much it means to me when someone takes the time to get it right. And I wanted to be respectful and honor, these people. And so I would find them, and they would send me the memos, and I'm in the studio like on my phone, like listening. Oh, okay, this is how you say it,
That's
So that
awesome.
is I'm figuring out my way of prep. I don't know what it is yet. I don't have a routine down yet because I'm figuring it out kind of as I go along. But eventually, I'll kind of have
Mhm.
my program set. But I'm getting pieces of it now.
Yeah.
So I know I just took you the long way around that.
No, no, that's really good. That like the fact that you said that you have reached out to people to make sure that you're doing things correctly. I always stress that with accents, just in voiceover in general, to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing it respectfully because you don't want to offend anyone. You don't want things to come off as a mockery.
hmm
Um, I've heard demos where people try to do different accents of different nationalities and things like that, and it just comes off so wrong, and
hmm
you can definitely tell that it's not authentic, and it just comes off very offensive. So you
Right.
definitely don't want to do that. And the fact that you would reach out to your friends in the UK and ask them for feedback and make sure that you're doing things right, or asking how to pronounce names and things like that. That's amazing. That's really, really great advice. And I love that you do that. That's really, really good. Good practice. Keep that up. Don't lose that.
All right.
Put that in your little prep basket. Um, or however you need to prepare for your sessions, but that's good. I was going to actually ask you next, how do you prepare for your sessions, and do you have any must-haves that you take into the studio with you?
Yes. Okay. So I have I use singers vocal warm-ups because this is what I'm accustomed to using.
Hmm.
So I use those. I try to warm up for at least a little more than 30 minutes. I try to warm up before I get in the car, and then I continue the warm-ups in the car. And after I do my warm-ups, I try to do a bunch of tongue twisters
Hmm.
because one thing I realized, you don't realize how lazy your tongue is until you start narrating audiobooks.
Absolutely.
And I was just like, wow, just like shocked at myself,
Yeah.
and how lazy my tongue was and can be at times. But for also hydrating, I use coconut water and I use aloe juice. That works for me better than just flat water.
Mm.
Um, One other thing everyone kept saying, like, oh, to help with the clicks, because I click a lot. They were saying eat green apple,
Hmm.
and I tried that. It didn't change anything for me. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's just like a mental thing. People are like, oh, the green apple. Everybody's talking about this green apple, and I bought a bunch of green apples, and I ended up getting rid of them because I don't like apples. Um,
All right. I was.
Not really. And
Yeah.
but they didn't do anything to change my clicks. But then I saw this guy on YouTube, real time. He said what he found that helps him with his clicks is Icebreaker's gum. And I was
Hmm.
like, and so he was talking, and you could hear all the clicks. Then he paused, he put a piece of gum in his mouth, he chewed it for 30 seconds, started talking, clicks were gone. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, I'm gonna try this. So I bought me some Icebreaker's gum, and it actually worked for me.
Yeah.
So
Different
I
things work for different people. I tell
Yeah,
people that all the time. And it doesn't have to be specifically a green apple. I know people get very specific on things. Just apples in general, the
okay.
acidic in the apples can help sometimes with just keeping your mouth moist and things like that. I don't necessarily use apples.
Hmm.
It doesn't do, like you said, either way, it doesn't really do anything for me, but it does
Right.
help some people. But for me, it's just I like just gulping some water and leaving a little bit of water in my mouth as
Hmm.
I'm reading. That helps me. I even like kind of, I know it sounds gross, but I even spit out a little bit of the water just to
Okay.
coat my lips a little bit. That way, like when I'm doing certain words like plosives that have plosives and stuff in it, it kind of eliminates that. But that's what works for me. I
Okay.
believe the icebreaker's gum because it kind of cools your mouth down and
Mhm.
kind of gives you a little more opening as far as being able to open your mouth a little bit better. So I could believe that that works. It's funny you said about the tongue thing
Mhm.
because your tongue does get lazy and you don't realize it. I had a, a, a student who quit on me because I told him that he needed to do warm up exercises to stretch his tongue.
Mhm.
He thought that was weird and strange, so he quit. And I'm like, you don't even understand. It's important. I know it feels weird. I know it sounds
Mhm.
weird, but it's necessary. There's been so many times I've been in studio reading audiobooks and I felt like I was having a stroke because I'm like, what's going on? I got dizzy, like
Mhm.
my words start slurring and like everything. I'm like, I think I need to go to the emergency. I don't know what's happening right now. So I totally get that. You're gonna say something. Sorry. I
Oh no!
stepped.
Well, just to on what you just said, if he thought that was weird, then he definitely doesn't want to do this.
Right. Yeah.
There's
There's
nothing
so
weird.
many there's so many things that are weird that you're gonna have to do all types of
Mhm.
twisting your face up and
Yes.
doing all stuff. Like it's acting at the end of the
Yes.
day.
Mhm.
Especially with audiobooks, you have to get into character. You
Yes.
have to be able to tap into that. If I'm doing a kid voice, I kind of got to shrink a little bit into a little kid so I can, let that come off. If I'm trying to be a thug or somebody, I gotta get more into that. That's
Right.
not me. I'm not like that. But if that's the character in the book, that's the character I have to portray. So
Right.
yeah, like he was like, he asked me, he's like, "What can I ask why you're making me do that?" And I'm like, because it's part of a warm up. It's very important for you to know how to, use all of the muscles in your face, your tongue, your mouth, all that type of stuff. And he just said, and then he never came back. So it was like, it's very important. Like, I'm not
Right.
just trying to make you look weird or feel weird or like be
Right.
weird. It's part of it. So
Right.
yeah, good stuff.
And I was just
Anything
gonna
else you
say,
take into studio with you
yeah,
that's important to you?
one other thing, and this is going to seem weird, and it's not really healthy, but Lay's potato chips, the original. Um, I learned this actually from a couple other singers who like dealt with like just having a dry throat and dry mouth.
Mhm.
and I noticed they would eat a couple of Lay's potato chips before they went out and sang. So I started doing it, and I was like, oh, well, this actually works. You know, when I'm experiencing a day when things just kind of feel dry.
Hmm.
I guess it's the fat and the grease in it.
Okay.
And I had a couple years ago, I was out in LA for the one of those singing shows. We won't talk about that. But I was having dryness, and I was
Hmm.
hydrating well, but I was still getting this dryness. And I remember the vocal coach in our session, she told me, she said, go get some French fries. She said, go
Mm.
get something greasy. And I was like, greasy? I said, I've been avoiding grease. I've been avoiding. She was like, yeah, that's the problem. Go get something greasy. It'll help. And so I did that, and I was like, oh, okay. So, that in moderation is helpful for me.
Yeah, that I mean, it all makes sense to
Hmm.
me as far as like when you said the grease part, that made
Hmm.
sense. It's like, like on the whiz, slide some oil to me. The oil, do
Right.
what you gotta do. So it makes sense. I get it. But there's so many different hacks and things like that. I'm gonna try it. I've never heard of that, but
Okay.
I'm gonna try it and see if it works for me.
Let me know how it
But
works.
yeah, there's so many different hacks or so many different things that just work for, people in general, as far as like I know a lot of people who um record from home with audiobooks. They'll use a clicker. They'll buy a clicker so that they can click where their mistakes are and things like that. And they'll
Hmm.
go and they'll spend the money to buy a click. Oh, I need a clicker. And they'll go buy one. And I'm like, use an ink pen. Like, I'm not going to buy a clicker. Like, does the same thing. What? Are you kidding? But again, that's just my whole DIY,
Right,
brain.
right,
I'm
right,
like, I'm not gonna go spend money on a specific. You have to get this brand clicker.
right, right.
No, I'm not doing
That's
all
it.
that. So, yeah. So everybody's got their own hacks, their own tricks and things that work for them. I
Hmm.
stress do what works for you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
you don't have to go by anybody else's advice when it comes to that. You do what is best for you. All right. So, what has been your hardest experience so far and your biggest challenge with audiobook narration?
The hardest experience by far was the first book I was booked for that I mentioned earlier. Even though I ended up recording it second, that
Mhm.
was the book that was about basically the history of blood in the body. So it was kind of a medical history. Yeah. And it's a brilliant work. I think I learned a lot reading it. But the problem for me, and I don't suggest that anybody that's new to this agree to do a book like that early on, because I didn't know how to properly do my research for that book. I didn't know how to properly prep, and
Mhm.
I read it, and I did my research. I found my pronunciations of the words, but when I got into the studio, basically all the work that I did beforehand didn't serve me because 90% of it was wrong.
Mhm.
So, and I didn't know that. I for some reason I just wasn't paying attention to when I find these pronunciations. I need to find them from certain regions. So I found pronunciations, but they weren't the right pronunciations. And so as we were working, we had to keep stopping to find um, these pronunciations. And I mean, we're talking about, word, Chinese, Hindu, Greek, Latin, Spanish, German, literally every language you can think of. And some of them were incredibly hard for me that I had to take time to really practice over and over again before I could like get it to come out of my mouth. And then it was
Mhm.
like, okay, you got it to come out of your mouth, but it wasn't performed well. So now I
Yeah.
have to do it again and try to get it to come out of my mouth and perform it well at the same time. So it
Yeah.
made a lot of our sessions very taxing and
Mhm.
stressful. But like I said, I was grateful to have the engineer that I did, because she was with me like every step of the way. She said, "We got this. We're going to take our time. It's going to take the time it takes."
Mhm.
And we ended up, I think, having to add 3 more days of recording for it because I wasn't getting very much done per day because of all the stopping we had to do.
Mhm.
And it was that was that was oh my gosh, man, I was dreaming about this book when I went home. like I would wake up like, oh my God, like thinking of these words. Like one of the
Mhm.
one of the words in this, somebody's name was Seis Alpinus, you know,
Mhm.
and so every time I go in the studio and I see her, the engineer, I'll be like, hey, I'll be like, Seis Alpinus, and we just both just will start just cracking
Yeah.
up because I was saying it wrong, and I'm not going to say how I was saying it, but it was definitely not right, and
Yeah.
that was one that we won't forget. I said, if I ever have a son, I'm gonna name him Seis Alpinus,
Yeah.
you know, but
Wow.
the thing that's so important about this, because I'm really glad that I did it, because it pushed me way beyond my comfort zone,
Mhm.
and I developed a section of skills that I needed. And one of the things she said to me, she said, the narrator you were at the beginning of this book is totally different from the narrator you are in the middle
Mhm.
and at the end. She said, because I can see your like your growth in real time. And one of the best pieces of advice that she gave me was to trust the punctuation, because I was
Mhm.
so caught up on the pronunciations of things and all those things. It was just like, forget the punctuation. I'm trying to figure out how to say this long Latin sentence.
Yeah.
But when I left there, and I remember the day we finished, and she was like, okay. She's like, you're done. And I just sat there looking at her like, you're lying to me. This will never be finished. This will never be done. But I had this sense of relief. And when I left there, I said to myself, I sat in the car and I said to myself, do you still want to do this?
Mhm.
And my answer was yes. It was like, as hard as that experience was, I still enjoyed it. As stressed as I was, it was like, yeah, this is not defeating me. I'm going to push
Yeah.
past this. I still want to do this.
Yeah.
So that was a big moment for me. And yeah, so that was that was the hardest experience.
That's good. And that I'm glad that, like you said, even though you had the experience of doing the other book first before you
Mhm.
had to do that, I'm glad that happened so that you didn't get discouraged, because the answer to your question may have been different had you done this book first.
Possibly.
So I'm glad that that happened. Everything happens for a reason, but I'm also glad that you got it out of the way. You got that experience, you know, done, taken care of, so that you know that now you can conquer anything. You know that
Mhm.
if another book comes your way that's just as complicated, just as complex, you know, I'll get through it. It's going to be hard this week, but I'm looking forward to 5 days from now when it'll be done, and all I got to do is sit back and wait on the pickups. You
Right.
know that you can do it. You're confident in yourself now to know that that was the hardest experience you've had so far. May not be the hardest you'll have in the future. You may come across something that's even harder.
Right.
But not only do you know you can do it, but they know you can do it too.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
somebody else might see that and run from it, or just not put in the effort or put in the work that they need to be able to deliver it the best way. So
Right.
kudos to you for sticking through it, not giving up, not running away. But I am glad that it came second and it wasn't your
Yes.
first.
Yes. Yes.
I'm glad that that happened. So, and I'm glad again that you had the engineer that you had to help you through it. So that's
Yeah.
really good. Good,
Definitely
good, good.
Providence.
Yes. So with pickups, let's talk about that. So for those who don't know what pickups are, basically, we mentioned it a couple times here. Pickups is when you've done all you can. You've read through the book. The engineers, at least the engineers we work with, try their hardest to catch things while you're recording, so that they can avoid you having to do too many pickups. But there's always going to be pickups that you have to do, which means you come back into the studio and basically fix your mistakes. So they'll just punch you in. They'll play back your mistake, and then they'll punch you in for you to just correct the mistake, and then do your credits, and then you're good to go.
Mhm.
That's usually my favorite part of the whole narration experience, is go in, see how many pickups I got. And then once it's like, all right, time for credits, then I know stamped, we in there. So that excites me all the time. So what's been your experience with pickups? Do you dread it? Do you like it? Or has it given you a new perspective or outlook on things when you go in? Have you had a lot of pickups to do on that book in particular? Or what's been your experience with pickups?
So far, I think the first book, I think I had 22 pickups, and I didn't know if that was a good thing or
Mhm.
not. But most of the mistakes in that book were like noises
Okay.
and not so much me kind of messing up things. So I was glad about that, and I was nervous because when I went, I was nervous that day because I didn't know. I don't even know how you do pickups. Like how does
Mhm.
this work? You know.
Yeah.
But we got through them pretty fast. That big book.
Mhm.
Um, so I had 176 pickups for that book,
Oh, wow.
and it's a 12-hour book. So,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, well, at least it's not 500 because that's what she warned me
Mhm.
about. She was like, if you have 500 pickups, you're out of here. You're done. They're never going to call you again. So I was like, okay, it's not 500. So that's good. you know?
Yeah.
And, and I came in and I was looking at the guide with the sheet with all the words and all the things I had to fix. And a lot of it was simple things. Like I may have turned, and into an,
Right.
or I may have like skipped over a word or added a word that wasn't there.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't so much of the big word. So that was a huge relief for me because I was almost panicked, like thinking like, oh gosh, if I have to go through all this Latin stuff again, I don't know that I can do it better than I did it already.
Yeah.
And so, and then some of it was like so simple. I was like, how did I make that mistake? But that was because we
Mhm.
were so focused on the big things, the little things kind of slipped by.
Mhm.
So I got through those. I don't remember how much time it took, and I thought, okay, this book is done, finally done.
Mhm.
And like 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, second round of pickups for this book, and I was like, what do you mean? this book
Second
won't leave me alone. It was like 70 pickups on that one, and I was like, how do we have
round.
70 more pickups?
Wow.
But I went back and
Mhm.
we knocked it out. We got it done. And I haven't heard anything else since. So hopefully that was the last round of pickups for that book.
Good.
And then the next one, I just got some pickups in the email today, only has 3. So I was like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. As you go along, the pickups get shorter and it gets more exciting to go in there and see how many you got. Like, okay, let's
Right,
see. Let's see what's happening today. So that's
right.
good. The studio has now moved, but some pickups would be at the old location. There was a lot of construction going on, a lot of bumping around going on just in the building. So a lot of
Hmm.
times it wasn't, like you said, it would just be noise or things like that that are happening in the surrounding and the ambiance and things like
Hmm.
that. So it had nothing to do with necessarily any mistakes that we've made, but just building noise, things like that. Like you said, small things like did or didn't, like
Hmm.
just forgetting to put the apostrophe or
Hmm.
there or theirs, and it's like just little stuff
Hmm.
like that. So nothing where it's like you have to like redo a whole paragraph or redo a
Right.
whole sentence. It's literally
Hmm.
like words that just,
Hmm.
which are honest mistakes. You can't get through a whole book and not make a mistake, or they can't catch everything. So
Right.
yeah, pickups are cool. Like at least they're getting it together and getting it figured out. Like I said, sometimes it's us, sometimes it's them. But either way, like I said, get the pickups done first. And when it's time to get those credits in
Hmm.
and say your name, it's
Right.
like, say my name, say my name. Right.
exactly.
I love it. So, okay, cool. And what's been the most positive, fun experience that
Oh
you've
man.
had?
Most positive is the last book I just did.
Hmm.
Um, this one was literally, it was written so extremely well. And the characters were so much fun. The story was, it's a fun family type book. It
Hmm.
reminds me of something I could see Disney making into a movie.
Oh, wow.
And I just loved every minute of it. I loved every minute of going in and reading it and working on the characters, and I literally like disappeared into this story. It was written so well.
Awesome.
And this was the first one of all the books that I recorded so far that I was able to really just flow through every
Hmm.
day. It was just like nonstop flowing. A few hiccups here and there, stopping, but the yeah, it was just amazing. I really, really loved it.
Good, cool.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. Awesome. So I have one more question for you before we finish, but I do want to ask just a personal question. What
Okay.
can you tell me your experience with me? You did come on to the workshop a little over a year ago, and then you enrolled into my course,
Mhm.
which at that point was when I was doing the courses live. We had what, 4 Saturdays that we would meet. I know a
Mhm.
couple of those times you weren't able to come on because you booked and busy with your performances and stuff like that, but
No, I got
we still
sick.
got
I got
together.
sick.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
But I think one time you had a show that you had to
Oh
attend.
yeah, I had to leave early. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember.
So, but we continue to stay in contact. We continue to, like, you call me. You can call me anytime. Don't ever feel like you're bothering me, or feel like you cannot call me if you have questions about anything. You feeling discouraged, you feeling nervous about anything, you can always call me. I will forever be your coach and be here for
Thank
you.
you.
So just know that. But if you just tell a little bit just about, if you want, if you can, your experience with working with me, the community we have with the other students and things like that. Like, if you could just speak on that just briefly.
Yeah, so it started. My relationship with you started with the seminar that you did
Mm-hmm.
first before I
Yeah.
joined the class. And when I attended that seminar, I got so much information that I just didn't know, and and that's what made me say, like, okay, I need to take this class from her, because if I'm getting this much information from her, and this is free, you
Mm-hmm.
know, what am I going to get if I actually pay for the class? And that was a huge decision for me at the time, because with everything going on in the world, I wasn't really working much, and so financially I was super stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a huge decision for me, but it wasn't a fearful decision because of my experience in the workshop ahead of the class, because I knew that I would definitely get value from you, for what I was going to spend for the course. And matter of fact, I think I told you, I was like, this is my birthday gift to
Yeah,
myself,
yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. And by the next birthday, I was working.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You
You hear
know,
that? You hear that? He was
so
working. Yes.
yeah, and you reminded me of that, because like
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about my birthday online, and you were like, "Hey, you remember you said you were giving this to yourself as a birthday present?" And I was like,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh man, what an awesome present I gave myself!" Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, pat on my back for that,
Mm-hmm.
But in the class, it was so great for me, because I was so, how can I put it? There was just so much I didn't know. I literally didn't know anything. And
Mm-hmm.
so the way you taught me like someone who didn't know anything. You didn't make any assumptions about what any of us knew in the class or our experiences. And I really appreciated that, because I needed to know those basic things to help me even to make a decision, to even be bold enough to say, hey, I'm going to send my demo to someone. So
Yeah.
I really appreciated that. I appreciated the community of students, and even when we would do the exercises where we would read the commercials, the scripts, and things, in front of each other. And I remember I would be sitting there like, oh my gosh, like so nervous,
Mm-hmm.
so nervous. And then it's like, okay, now it's my turn. Now I got to read, and I would read, and I remember I was like going through stuff so fast. And you're like, no, you gotta, okay, slow down right here,
Yeah.
because my nerves were getting the best of me. But
Mm-hmm.
all of that was something that I needed, and something that I appreciated. And then even the fact that even after that, like you said, you're still available. I try not to bug you with simple things, but the
You
fact that
can
I
beat
can,
me anytime.
I appreciate that. And the fact that I can reach out to you, especially real time when the work is coming,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that you have more experience than I do, and I can call you and say, hey, Erica, I got this email. It has this term, and this term, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what this means. They
Yeah.
didn't say what I'm getting paid. What does that mean? And you taught
Mm-hmm.
me about the per finished hour, and how to phrase that, how to ask about that, because I'm like, I don't want to come off the wrong way when I start talking about money,
Yeah.
and not know what I'm talking about or how to talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. And so you have been like a golden resource for me. So
Oh, thank you.
I am so grateful that I met you and went
Oh,
through that
thank you.
experience. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm grateful to have you on my team as one of our. I always battle between calling my coaching clients my students, but at the end of the day, y'all are students
Hmm.
of voice acting and getting to know and learning. Like I said, I try to teach from the ground up, literally. And I know just from trying to do on camera acting, even in the dance industry, like trying to back in the day when I wanted to go on tour with Janet and Beyonce and all that stuff. Nobody wanted to give the secrets. Nobody wanted to tell how to get in the door. What do I need? How do I get an agent? I don't know how to do that. Like, so that was always a battle. And it wasn't until you know who Shane Sparks is? He used to be like he used to be one of the judges on So You Think You Can Dance way back in the
Okay.
day.
Okay.
I love Shane Sparks, but he did a seminar, or he did a workshop back home in Ohio. And I attended the workshop. It was a dance workshop, obviously. And, I remember he called me out at the end to come and just do the choreography by myself and perform it in front of everybody. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh my God, Shane just called me out to come out here and perform in front of what? Shane Sparks? Oh. And he was just like, you're great. You're so talented. Like, you're really good. And he gave me the real. Like, I asked him the questions, the questions that I was scared to ask to anybody else. I was like, Shane Sparks is standing right in front of me right this moment. I have to get as much out of him as I can. Like, so I asked him, like, how do I think I asked him specifically, how do I dance for Janet Jackson? I think I asked him that specifically. And he said, you would be perfect for Janet because of your height. And he said, you'll never book Beyonce, so don't even try. And I asked him why. And he said, because of your height. He gave me the real. And I realized, like, once he told me that, and he said, he was like, getting into the industry is like Fort Knox. You're not going to get it unless you have an agent. Nobody's going to tell you how to get an agent. Stay away from all those pay to play sites that tell you that they'll tell you how to get an agent and all this other stuff, because they won't. Like, you got to go to the big cities where the agencies are, get in class, and just by word of mouth, that's how you'll start hearing about these agency auditions. And that's what brought me here to Atlanta, because I was like, I got to go. Little Ohio is not doing it for me. I gotta go because Shane said I gotta go to Atlanta. So that's what I did.
Wow.
Still never danced for Janet, but my life's not over. One day.
That's right.
But I appreciated him being honest with me and saying, like, you can forget it. It's never gonna happen. I know you love Beyonce, but you're never gonna go on tour with Beyonce. Like, that's just never gonna happen. And it's not because you're not talented. You're great enough to dance with her, but Frank Gatson doesn't book anybody under 5'1". So, or under 5'5", I think. And I'm 4'9", so
Okay.
that'll never happen. But Janet's only like 5'1", so he's
Right.
like, oh, you book Janet easy. So it was, good to hear that and good to know that. So yeah. Fun little side story about my life. But
no, that's great.
So last question, what advice would you give to aspiring voice actors and narrators out there? What's a nugget that you would, or jewel that you would drop for them?
I would say practice. Listen to narrators. I would say find a beginning class like yours, and make the investment, because it's worth it. It's worth the knowledge you'll get. I would say also connect with other narrators, like find them online. Because one thing that's different about this community that I'm learning, that's totally different from the music community that I'm accustomed to, is people share resources. They're really, so far, people have been really open about sharing resources and experiences and information like I've never seen in any other industry. It's like people have an understanding in this world that there's enough for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really refreshing for me. But yeah, like, and I would just say, like, do the work to really learn the craft, because it is a craft. And I'm understanding that even though I've had these 5 books so far come before I've learned everything I need to learn, I'm kind of learning on the job. But there's so many more classes and things that I want to take and continue to grow and learn, because like I said, I want to get up to Disney. And you can't just get there just having a good voice. You have to know how to use your voice, and you have to know how to take care of your voice, and you have to be dedicated and understand it's fun work, but it is work. And that's the one thing I think a lot of people don't understand, is like, this is work.
Yeah.
So if you really want to do it and you're really dedicated, be prepared to work, to really work. Unless you just want to, kind of do it for fun here and there, and then that's your business. But yeah, that's I think all I have to offer.
Great advice. Absolutely. I always say, people assume that because we're audible, we can speak, and everybody has a voice, that you can do narration, you can do voice acting. It's just using your voice. Like, I hate when I see those videos out there that are trying to promote like work from home, or they're promoting making money fast, and they'll be like, get paid to use your voice, get paid to talk. And
Anybody can do it.
Yeah, it's so much more than just doing that. I get on my soapbox all the time about ACX. Like I said, I think ACX is a great platform. It's great for especially beginner narrators to get on and kind of learn how to audition, learn how to record, learn how to edit, things like that. But if you're not careful, you can really, time is money also. And we don't have time to do that. Spend that time learning how to use your voice so that you can easily go into the studio and just knock it out and get paid more money to do so than you would on a platform like that. But there's lots of videos out there with promoting ACX in the wrong way and saying like, oh, make thousands of dollars working from home. And it's not that simple. It's not that easy. There's so much more that goes into it. And then you put another layer on top of it with the engineering and the editing and the recording and all of that on top of knowing how to actually narrate, because it is a skill. It's something you have to know how to learn how to do. And it's important to invest in that craft, just like anything else that you want a career in, a successful career in. So
absolutely.
Really, really great advice. Well, this was so much fun. I'm so glad that you came on here and did this with me. Again, Chinua has a lot going on. Just tell the people where they can find you, how they can follow you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, usually you can find pretty much everything for me on my website, chinuahawk.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all the socials, all under my name, Chinua Hawk. Let's see. I have 2 shows coming up. July 3rd, I'll be at St. James Live. I don't think I mentioned that one to you.
Oh, and I love St. James Live.
Oh, yeah. Well, come on.
Check you out.
All right, come on. And August 19th, I'll be at Eddie's Attic in Decatur, Georgia.
Cool.
So, yeah, if you can come out, these are musical performances, so I won't be doing any audio. But I'll be singing, so come on out if you can.
Yeah, I might have to come check you out. And then my birthday is August 25th, so if I have some girls in town, maybe we'll come check you out at Eddie's Attic too.
Perfect. I'll sing happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I really gotta make sure I try to make it out there. So
right,
cool.
Right.
Great. I will definitely make sure all of your information is in the description of this video. So guys, please follow him. Like you said, it's really important to network with other narrators, other people coming up, pick each other's brains, learn, grow together, all of that good stuff. So definitely follow him. You can follow me at Erica Dawn Voices. You guys know that. You can send me an email at ericadawnvoices@gmail.com if you have any questions regarding this interview, or if you're an aspiring voice actor and you want to come on to an interview. These are my student spotlight interviews, but I would definitely be interested in connecting with any other aspiring voice actors out there as well. So definitely shoot me an email, send me a DM. We can get connected. If you want any information on my coaching and training, that information is also in the description below, and you can always send me an email regarding that. Make sure you like this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got a lot of information from it. Thank you so much, Chinua, for being here. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel, because I have many more interviews coming up and much more that I plan to bring to this channel to you guys. Free content, free information on how to break into this business and get to working just like Mr. Hawk here. Okay. All right. So thank you again so much. I appreciate you so much. Keep up the great work. I'm very proud of you. And you're just getting started. You're gonna get to Disney. You're gonna get all of that. Just stay on the right path. Stay on the path. Stay with me, and continue to grow as much as you can with anyone else out there who can help you along the way. Okay.
Thank you. We'll have to do this again when I get the Disney thing. We'll have to do
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yes, for sure. We gotta come back and be like, y'all remember that interview?
Right.
At the show. Remember he said this? Look at him now. Look at him. So yes, definitely, for sure. Well, thank you again so much. Thank you guys all for watching, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
See ya.